Guten Tag, WAP. This is Mr. Liniger. Let's make history today as we go over Unit 3, Day 8. Today we're going to finish up talking about Latin America in the 1800s. But let's get started with our daily punishment. What do you get when you mix literature with alcohol? Tequila Mockingbird. Key terms for today: Constitución de 1824, Anthony Lopez de Santa Anna, the Monroe Doctrine, the Mexican-American War, Benito Juarez, Juan Manuel de Rosas, the Middle Class Radical Party, Porfirio Diaz, Los Científicos, the Spanish-American War, the Panama Canal, the Big Stick Diplomacy. We're going to go over foreign involvement in Latin America in the 1800s, Latin American economic growth in the latter 1800s, and Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil in the latter 1800s. So let's talk about Mexico in mid to late 1800s. In the Constitution of 1824, this was the founding document of Mexico. It created the United Mexican States. It was a federalist structure, so it was a little bit decentralized with strong state power. States will have enormous power and influence. There was equality under the law, but it was a phrase without reality. It's mostly the Creoles that govern, that have power. There's no rights for the poor, Indians, or mestizos. From 1835 to 1855, Santa Anna was a general. He's going to seize power and become a caudillo in Mexico. During this time, Anglo-American settlers are going to settle in Texas. They're going to rebel and declare their independence. Santa Anna will try to defeat them, but will be captured in the Battle of San Jacinto, and Texas will win their independence. Santa Anna will eventually seize power again during the Mexican-American War, and he'll fight the Americans. In the Mexican-American War, Mexico will lose and have to give up California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah. They have to recognize Texas being part of the United States. After this, there's going to be a liberal rebellion against the Caudillo, against Santa Anna, and Santa Anna is going to be ousted from power again. The person that's going to seize power next is Benito Juarez. He's going to create a neat liberal constitution. He's a reformer. Conservatives are going to reject the liberal constitution, and they're going to turn to France to help them out. France is going to overthrow the republic. They're going to place Maximilian of Habsburg on the throne as emperor in 1862. Eventually, the Mexicans will fight the French, and the French forces are going to be withdrawn. The liberals are going to return to power under Benito Juarez. They will execute Maximilian of Habsburg, and Juarez will get back power in 1867. Juarez will continue to govern France until his death in 1872. The next big person you should know is Porfirio Diaz. He was a cunning politician. He was president of Mexico. He knew how to manipulate people to his advantage. One of his phrases was "Pont o palo." Even though he was the president of Mexico, he is going to be pretty corrupt. He dissolved all local authorities and aspects of federalism. He centralized the government. The legislature was composed almost entirely of his closest and most loyal friends. He suppressed the media and controlled the court system. He had a very military mindset. His advisors are called Los Científicos. They're technocrats. Technocrats are people that are specifically trained in one area. So he might have a person like that's a technocrat that deals with industrialization. And having technocratic advisors is going to be a commonality in Latin American states. Some of the things that Diaz does, he's going to give mestizos political positions of power. He'll do the same thing with elite Creoles. He won't interfere with their wealth or their haciendas. He'll be neutral with the Catholic Church. He won't assault it, but he won't support it. He will ignore the dominant Indian population and really do nothing for them at all. As far as his economy goes, he was a classical liberal. He'll welcome foreign investors with open arms. He'll encourage foreign investment um, because the country and the country because the country was in serious debt and had minimal savings. U.S. investors. He'll stick with largely familiar liberal economic policies. He'll free the land for private exploitation. He'll be purchased by his loyal political followers and friends, so it will be kind of crony capitalism. The money will not be used to improve the lives of the people of Mexico. His modernization programs will also be at odds with the owners of large plantations. Rich plantation owners wanted to maintain their existing feudal systems. They were reluctant to transform into a capitalist economy, which is what he was trying to do, with competition foreign markets. Let's talk about Argentina. Buenos Aires is going to dominate the region of Rio de Plata, which was the one country in southern part of South America. Buenos Aires is going to be the capital there. It's going to have a liberal government. It's going to sought to stimulate the economy. By 1831, it's going to have a conservative government under Juan Manuel de Rosas. He's going to seize power through terror. He is going to do federalism. He's going to give a lot of power to the ranchers at the expense of the Indians. He'll fight wars against most of South America. After his fall in 1852, there'll be a period of political confusion, which will ensue until the creation of Argentina in 1862. Remember, Rio de Plata and Gran Colombia did not survive. Both of those broke up into smaller countries. Let's continue talking about Argentina. After 1870, the economy will boom through the export of primary resources, including grain, beef. Argentina's labor system is going to expand through immigration from Europe. We talked about how Southern and Eastern Europeans are going to go to Argentina and Brazil and work there for part of the year, and then go back to their European country. The European-born workers are going to bring socialism with them, and there's going to be a socialist party that will develop in Argentina. One of the major parties to develop there is the middle-class radical party in Argentina. They're going to promise political reform and more enlightened labor policies. They'll gain power in 1916. However, once they are faced with strikes, they're going to react repressively and shut down strikes. You'll see this a lot with radical parties in Latin America and just in general, that they promise reform, but once they gain power, they become dictatorships. Let's talk about Brazil. After 1840, Dom Pedro II is going to rule in his own name as a liberal. He's going to seek to increase economic growth, foreign investments, improve the country's infrastructure. Brazilian economy will be revolutionized by the emergence of coffee as an export crop. He wanted to improve the country's infrastructure. The economy will be revolutionized by the emergence of coffee as an export crop. As coffee production expands, slavery will be intensified, and there'll be more African slavery as a source of coercive labor. Just like in Argentina, there'll be extensive European immigration to Brazil. It will broaden the labor force and reduce the need for slavery. The Italians will form a major group of the immigrants. There'll start to be an abolition movement in Brazil in the 1840s. Finally, in 1888, slavery will be abolished. The emperor did support this. The landowners were furious at the monarch for supporting the abolitionist movement. So as a result of Emperor Dom Pedro abolishing slavery, in 1889 there'll be a military coup which will depose the emperor and will establish a republic because he was against slavery. Let's finally talk about the United States. After the Civil War, America will become involved. We talked about how they did the Monroe Doctrine before, which really had no power to enforce. We talked about the Mexican-American War, how they got land. The next war America is going to get involved in is the Spanish-American War. America believed that Spain destroyed one of their ships, the USS Maine. They blew up the Maine to hell with Spain. America will go to war with Spain. They will win this war. As a result of the war, Cuba becomes a protectorate. They get the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico. Another big thing that they do during this time is America wanted to build a canal that would be able to, They didn't have to circumnavigate South America. They wanted to build a canal so they can go straight through Central America. Colombia was reluctant to support the U.S. plan to build a canal. So since Colombia refused to do this, at this time in Colombia, there was a group of people rebelling in Panama. So America is going to give weapons and they're going to use their navy to support the Panamanians rebels. In return, Panama promised to let America build the canal. This is the idea of big stick diplomacy. Speak softly but carry a big stick. At first, they asked Colombia's help to let them build a canal there. When they said no, they used military might. The canal will be finished and opened in 1914. Panama becomes independent. Panama honors their promise. And America will build the Panama Canal. What's going to happen is America is going to become more involved in Latin America. We're going to give loans and aid, financial aid to Latin American nations. And when nations take power that America feels are not favorable to U.S. business, America will invade them. This is called gunboat diplomacy. Latin America is going to become increasingly critical of U.S. intervention in this region, and America is going to be thought of as the big bully in the Americas. All right, guys, that's all I have for you for today. Until next time, deuces. Deuces, deuces.